welcome fellow digital soldiers to True Reporting. It is December 23rd, and on today's podcast, I will be covering a very good article entitled Mass Arrest versus Deep State Operatives Imminent. We all know we are in the middle of a government shutdown, and what better time to swoop in and arrest some high-profile politicians. But before we get into this article, would you please go ahead and click that blue bell to get notifications so when I post, you'll be the first to know. Also, please follow me on Twitter at True Reporting, and don't forget to leave a like. The more likes that this video receives, the more times it is recommended to other viewers, thus more eyes on the truth. With that being said, my friends, let's go ahead and hop into it. This is True Reporting. So we see here, this article came out December 23rd, and it says various events leading up to the U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to withdraw an estimated 2,000 U.S. troops from Syria and at least half of the 14,000 from Afghanistan are creating a very positive picture about the long-sought mass arrest of people involved in the systematic destruction of rich countries and the overall deterioration of the quality of life all over the planet. The rest of these current events are merely smokescreens to stabilize the long and precariously untenable situation that the deep state is in ever since the internet infrastructure came online. If one remembers a post on this website that the intel cowboys worldwide have integrated their efforts to undermine the abusive elite's unwarranted power to subjugate all of humanity, or at least what would remain of it after a great holocaust via mass vaccination and the elaborate poisoning of the food systems under an AI-based slavery known as the technocratic dictatorship. Global intel cowboys unite to bring down organized crime cabal. So you can definitely go there, and this is what it entails. There is now an exclusive body of evidence that Donald Trump was indeed hired by these intelligence cowboys to take on their battle right into the open through the White House. While they remain under the cloak of what is known as the QAnon revelations, which are now being actively suppressed by tech giant Google and even the Mozilla Foundation. So we see here, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but I saw it maybe a month or so ago on the QAnonPosts.com. It says deceptive site ahead. Advisory provided by Google Safe Browsing. Yeah, it's a deceptive site. Be careful. A bunch of nonsense, correct? Kinetic World War III averted. On January 13, 2018, the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency system sent out a message about an incoming missile. I know this is old, guys, but please, this is very important within the story. Emergency alerts, ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii, seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill, and we all remember that. So this, which plunges everyone there into panic. That was just one of many attempts at starting an open World War III this year alone. All throughout the early part of Trump's term in the office, he was always fed with false information. Sorry, he forgot the D. With false information about chemical attacks in Syria. Yet all Trump did was to give instructions to bomb specific targets in the country with the least damage. Such measures, of course, raised all defense-related stocks in various exchanges. Don't you remember everyone, I believe Alex Jones even went crazy when we bombed Syria, and it was just to blow up an ISIS tunnel? It's all strategic, right? But for the first time in the U.S. naval history, all U.S. aircraft carriers are now docked at their home ports here. And I'll go ahead and show you that real quick. This is basically what we see December 19th. This dates back all the way to March 26, 2008, and it gives you everything where every aircraft carrier was, and now it is docked, which is, we will get into the reason why. So we see this runs counter to the constant shadow skirmishes in the South China Sea during the time prior and into the first few months of the Trump administration. So what is really the reason behind the recent Canadian arrest of Huawei CFO all about? I believe that's how it's pronounced. If we closely examine the Chinese response to the event, they are hitting hard, not on the Americans, but on the Canadian operatives right inside China instead. And this fiasco was initiated right after Xi Jinping and Donald Trump had a meeting on the sidelines of the G20 Summit 2018 in Argentina, where Macron and his much older wife, his handler, don't forget, descended from their plane without the courtesy of a proper welcome except from the airport ground crew. Yes, there is still the issue of the Chinese hackers stealing U.S. technology, but then again, all of these are merely smokescreens, as there is no arrest being made against these so-called hackers. Not to mention that everyone is continually spying and stealing from everyone else, a standard staple since war was turned into an art form. Indeed, the ongoing U.S.-China trade war is sending the deep state global stock markets into tatters. As the Dow Jones Industrial Average confronts its ugliest December since its biggest loss in 1931, the time of the Great Depression, there is another notable way to put the severity of this persistent bout of losses into historical context. And basically, this part right here just goes through the numbers of that time, and I believe in 1931 and 1987, which were in the negatives. So we see here there's a similar downtrend that is taking hold in December, despite the seasonal tendency for that month to enjoy a pre-Christmas updraft, typically known as the Santa Rally. Everyone buying all this stuff for Christmas sends a boost into the stock market and everything like that. We all know about it. Here's how December moves have shaped up. We see the S&P 500 has had an average daily move of negative 0.80%. The Dow has an average daily move of negative 0.78 as of 2:30 p.m. Eastern Trade Friday, and the Russell 2000 index has had an average daily move of negative 1.05%. For those equity benchmarks, that is the worst performance since that dreaded month more than 30 years ago, based on the market levels at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He's speaking of 1987. This brutal stock market rout mirrors the 1987 crash in one important way. 2018, this was on the 21st. In that regard, Trump is reportedly contemplating of firing Federal Reserve Chair Powell, another deep state stooge, for being too aggressive in hiking interest rates that are causing the market's recent slump further. So this is another wink at, we're going to see a gold-backed dollar, guys. We're going to get rid of this Federal Reserve. Trump hates it. It's completely made up. I believe the stock market is even trash too. It can be manipulated. Whoever has control of these markets, whoever has control of the money. And yeah, we're definitely going to see a financial reset, hopefully here within the next 3 or 4 years, which will boost us into such wealth as Americans, which we deservingly should have. This is a time where we will definitely be flourishing as a country and as people. So back to this. It says here that this is a complex issue for the White House, of course, considering the historical foundation of the entire Western financial system. Aside from the well-documented historical assets of Indochina being used to constantly prop up the deep state banking system, the Chinese may be impatiently holding the $1+ trillion bag for the Americans, but it is the Philippines which is unwittingly foregoing its rightful place in the sun. When it lent to the Vatican and the U.S. its historical assets, primarily in the form of gold, under the threat of force more than 100 years ago. And we see here an article, Independent Confirmation of the Philippine Gold, sent to us. It was too painful indeed for Secretary Department of Defense Mattis to accede to the instruction of President Trump to finally return the Balangiga bells where it belongs, and to acknowledge the genocidal actions of the U.S. against the inhabitants of Samar Island, Philippines, at the turn of the 20th century. So basically, they're talking about a war. I believe it took place in 1901 between the U.S. and the Philippines. One of the Balangiga bells was rung as a signal for the Philippine patriots to start the ambush against the American occupiers, which led to the letter's death that precipitated in the countermeasure aiming at turning Balangiga, Samar Island, into a howling wilderness. And then you can click on this article if you want to. Acknowledged American atrocities in the Philippines. The Philippines fought the Americans after the latter immediately assumed occupation of the islands when the Spaniards were losing their battle against local revolutionaries. I believe this is pronounced Duterte's specific request to form the return of the bells was delivered in his State of the Nation 2017 to the shock of the U.S. ambassador in attendance. Wow, that's pretty incredible. To see and administer the ending of American occupations worldwide is too much for madness to bear. What's behind the latest accelerated scramble for disclosure and the end of the U.S. hostilities worldwide? For almost 2 years, U.S. President Donald Trump tried to use conventional methods to deal with the deep state Congress and the State Department, but all he got was constant failures and now infamous Russiagate. The latest decision for the complete withdrawal from Syria by Trump was brought about by the direct confirmation of Turkey President Erdogan that ISIS is already 99% neutralized, a fact reluctantly admitted to by Bolton, Pompeo, and Mattis. The threesome insisted that U.S. forces still needed to prevent an ISIS resurgence in the region. It must be said that the U.S. withdrawal from Syria is inevitable due to the U.S. bankruptcy and obviously was also part of what was agreed upon by Trump and Putin during their candid and useful one-on-one meeting in Helsinki last July 16, 2018. Another turning point for Trump is the California wildfire, which was very unique in its speed and coverage, prompting those who have a functioning gray matter to doubt the mainstream narrative of just another proof of global warming. And then there's an article, California wildfire, another directed energy weapon attack? Absolutely. The directed energy weapon attacks on Paradise, California is now reported as a desperate deep state attack on off-world beings who have been living among us for decades in order to guide humanity in the proper use of nuclear technology. Immediately in the aftermath of the last World War, where several atomic bombs of increasing intensity were detonated in some Pacific atolls in island elsewhere. Trump was made aware of off-world technologies very early from his own uncle, John George Trump, who was a known physicist in his time. We all know about that. Ronald Reagan's National Medal of Science. He also has a National Academy of Engineering. Was very close to Tesla also. And we can see here. So when Trump peppered his inaugural speech with technologies of tomorrow, he does know what he was talking about. We stand at the birth of a new millennium, Trump says in his inaugural speech, ready to unlock the mysteries of space, to free the earth from the miseries of disease, and to harness the energies, industries, and technologies of tomorrow. That's amazing. As for the Russia-U.S. deteriorating relationship due to unilateral abrogation of the INF Treaty by the U.S., it is just another smokescreen to feed the warmongers and the military-industrial complex one last time before it is transformed into an agent of positive, significantly advanced infrastructure, churning out free energy and gravity-defying transport systems that will end the petrodollar, perpetual war-based economy. I agree. The U.S. military withdrawal from Syria will turn out to be the watershed event that will pave the way for lasting peace worldwide, where not a single element of the deep state can have a piece of the action. The sealed indictments for the month of November alone totaled 5,233, bringing the overall figure to 66,568 between October 30th, 2017 and November 30th, 2018. I believe it is up to 69,000, so almost 3,000 more indictments. And we see this tweet that was retweeted by President Trump. Now that Russia collusion is proven lie, when do the trials for treason begin? Another tsunami attack against Indonesia should grab the headlines at the very least, away from the U.S. pullout in Syria. So, yes, everything that we are seeing here, guys, is a build-up to arrests. We just had the Indonesia tsunami, which will grab the headlines, as this gentleman has told us. And like I told you in the beginning, this is a prime time to swoop in and grab some people for these indictments and get them into a fair and justly courtroom. I believe we are on the precipice of turning around our technologies, the way that we think. Our consciousness level is higher. We are going to get rid of this evil once and for all. And with that being said, my friends, if you would please, if you found this informative and you enjoyed this, please subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to leave a like, and please follow me on Twitter at True Reporting. Guys, I will put out another podcast later on this evening and possibly a live call-in show tonight. Please be kind to one another and love one another, and we'll talk to you soon, everybody.